welcome to the Soul to Scene podcast, episode 16. I'm Andy Cooper from RMS Motoring, and today I'm joined by Patrick McCullagh, and we are currently sitting recording this show in Las Vegas, baby, which is pretty awesome. Thanks for joining us, Patrick.
Thanks for having me, Andy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good man. Well, look, before we kick off, our last show I interviewed Nigel and Gethin from GTI and I about dubshed and other sorts of things as well. So this podcast will be going out after the show is over, but check out RMS for the coverage of that and give that previous pod a listen to if you didn't catch it. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm pretty excited to be here in Vegas. It's pretty awesome. Patrick, you and I have spent the whole day together, and it's been absolutely incredible. Getting out of the limits of Northern Ireland to somewhere totally different and see some motors and all the rest, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. But for those of you who don't know Patrick, so Patrick is known as Nazar. Is it Nazar or Nazar on the forum?
It's Nazor.
Nazor.
Right. But most people say Nazar, so that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, so you ran the Autolifers, you run the Autolifers website, and for the past 8 years have been living in Vegas. So you're a relocated petrol head from Northern Ireland, and really want to dig into the automotive life out here and the sort of the differences between our little province and this absolutely mental place. But look, first of all, let's talk about our day today. So this morning, and this is all by your organisation, Patrick, was awesome. So we went to the Cars and Coffee event called Gears and Grinds at the Baguette Cafe. So that's just sort of southwest of Vegas. So it was about 15-20 minutes from the Strip, and it was awesome. So I took the GoPro cameras with me as well. So keep an eye out on the RMS YouTube and on the forum, because I will be posting that on the forum. But you knew a lot of guys there, Patrick. Some of the stuff that these guys bring, it's incredible.
Yeah. So basically the show itself is organised by a good friend of mine, Tyler Gallo. And Tyler's a guy that I met. I was photographing cars here at a show, and he thought that I looked like I knew what I was doing. How wrong he was, but I certainly looked the part maybe. But yeah, Tyler set up the show maybe a couple of years ago, and it's just grown from strength to strength. Like even what we seen this morning, like I wasn't really expecting all of that. But as you've seen, like there's just some mega stuff at it, and it's like there's something for everybody. You know, it's like high-end hypercars, like the Pagani that we've seen.
So a Pagani Huayra Roadster arrived,
yeah, and
you have to see so photos as well. I'm going to put the photos in RMS, a video. This thing was just a carbon-clad masterpiece, and it was like it's not quite a monocoque, but the front end and back end open and to reveal the front and back wheels. Yeah. So you can see all the suspension and the engine and all the rest, and it's just it was absolutely staggering looking. But there was others really cool stuff there. So there was, of course, there was Americana there.
Yeah,
and it's not that I'm not interested in it, but I was immediately interested by there was a EF Civic Turbo.
Right. Yeah, that looked great. And then there was the EG Civic as well.
Yeah, there was a wee Starlet, like a
KP
13 or
61 or so. I can't even. Yeah, but they're that little rear-wheel drive Starlet.
Yeah. So the stuff was just such a range of things. And then one of the other things that was there was your friend Pete's Impreza. Yeah.
So yeah, that Impreza there is, a lot of people mistake it for just something that's simply a wrap that has been, you know, somebody's deckled it and put the proper wheels on it. So
this, to give you a picture in your mind as you're listening, so it's an L-Reg, so one of the first generation Imprezas in the navy blue with 555 graphics and stuff like that over it. But this is a genuine bona fide recce car from the era. Yeah,
this would have been a Group N. What ProDrive would have done, they would have had Colin McRae and, you know, any Ari Vatanen, Marco Allen, any of those guys would have been out wrecking the stages, obviously, previously to create their pace notes. And this car, apparently, according to Pete, it's like it was used probably from 93 onwards up until around 97, 98. So this is a proper ProDrive shell with all the, you know, all the important welding and all that sort of stuff. I think he did say that he'd changed the cage out on it, possibly, but generally speaking, this is the real deal. And just, when you sit in it, it feels like it too.
Oh, it was just incredible. Like, it was something that if it had been brought to a car show at home, it would have had everyone standing around it. Over here in Vegas, I don't know if a lot of people knew what it was.
Yeah, so I think it's that rep thing. They think that it's somebody's it's a race car, and they probably don't even know why that is important, or because that would have been the colours that Colin would have won the championship in. So in 1996, he would have won the championship in a Group A version of that car. Yeah, so that was probably his recce car, maybe for that year.
Yeah. So he could have been sitting in that seat that we were sitting in today.
Absolutely.
Well, look, I interviewed Pete on camera again just because I'm out here, and I just wanted to try and bring home as much as possible so everyone else could sort of enjoy what we've been enjoying today. Mm-hmm. So if the audio is in good condition, I'll just drop it into the podcast here. So how do you know Pete, Patrick, anyway?
So it was from Gears and Grinds.
So and he's a local guy?
He is, yeah. Certainly lives here in Las Vegas, and he's actually got another great car that he's actually doing at the minute, which is going to be a replica, but it's going to be a WRC replica Impreza. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of it's an obscure colour scheme, but it's colour scheme, but it's like the Winfield colours. Uh-huh. But how I met him was it was a Gears and Grinds, and there was this odd Mercedes estate sitting at the sort of towards the bottom of the parking lot, and I looked at the registration plate on it on the front, and it was an English reg. Mm-hmm. It said K55 or it was L555 BAT.
Okay, yeah.
And I said, that reminds me of something.
Yeah.
And it turns out that was Colin's number plate on his rally car. So that immediately made me go over and say to him, what do you know about that plate there? And then he just got into the whole story.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got talking about the car, and he was showing me pictures. And we were just chatting from there then on. So
that's mad. I'm not the only UK registered number plate that I've seen here today, which just blows my mind, because you see so many of the American cars and metal plates. We were talking earlier on about the fact that you can go to the DMV here, and pay, was it $80, and you can get nearly whatever you want on a plate.
Yeah. There's just depending on the plate, you can get either 6 characters or 7, and then you pay obviously if it hasn't been taken, and you can't have anything that spells out anything that's vulgar.
Rude. Yeah.
So basically, you pay that. And you get that. It's not like back home where we're looking at 2-digit plates and spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds, or maybe thousands of pounds, just to have a 2-digit Northern Ireland plate or something.
Well, I know that Pete Venom in RMS, he had on his and I can't remember. It's the name of it's completely got me, but it's a Monaro at home, whatever it is over here.
Oh, it'd be like a GTO.
Yes, it was a GTO pump. Yeah. It was a GTO, but his plate was Monaro.
Oh, very good.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
But it was a sort of an in the know thing,
Yes.
But anyway, so Pete's impressive, spectacular, and what a way to meet people as well. We'll talk about that later on. That how do you flipping make the transition from being home and being you're from Oma originally?
Oma direction, yeah. Grew up in 5 Mile Town, and then spent a small bit of time in Galway, where I did my leaving cert. I didn't do my A levels, so I did my leaving cert, and then we moved back to Oma, where my dad's from. So that's kind of why we ended up in Oma. Yeah,
and you're here about 8 years.
8 years, just a little over 8 years, in fact. So it was January of 2014 that I arrived.
Yeah,
and I mean, a lot of people think that it's been great, and it has been great up to a point. The transition was pretty difficult, I have to say, but I think that's probably down to me as a person. It was difficult for me individually.
Well, look, we'll get back to how difficult you are as an individual shortly, or otherwise.
I'm sure there's plenty of people already know that.
So not only did we meet Pete at the Gears and Grinds, but we also met another mate of yours, Northern Irish guy, Andrew Frizzell, and Andrew works at, if I get it right, Vegas Celebrity Cars. Is that right?
It's just Celebrity Cars, yeah.
Celebrity Cars here in Vegas, and Andrew had a stunning 964 911 that
G series.
So
that's the car before.
Okay.
I believe, yeah.
Okay. And so he took me around on it up to. We went up to this place, the Celebrity Cars place, which just has full of Americana, and again took the cameras because and photos and all the rest. So all this stuff I had to try and put as much as I can on RMS because this place was unbelievable. In there, one of the specific things was Tupac Shakur's 7 Series that he got shot in and killed in Vegas.
Yeah, literally, it's literally down the street from where we are.
Yeah, that's absolutely staggering. So some of the vehicles there that we see, that Speed 12 TVR, which is just, you know, some of real one-of-a-kind stuff as well. And it's weird seeing cars that we know from home being so far away.
Yes.
Or some of these special things, or seeing US variants of things. So there was was another 997, 911 in his lot, a dot one. It was interesting just seeing it comparing to the car we know at home. He has Al Capone's car as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I can't even remember what that is. But
but it's in the video. So and the bulletproof glass from the 1930s and all the rest. It was just super cool. So again, something to watch. Hopefully soon we'll get it edited up together. Maybe get it out at the same time as this podcast because it's worth seeing. And Andrew was a brilliant host and just let us poke around everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, Patrick, back to yourself, because this is here to talk to you about this big move, because I just find it fascinating. We were out for lunch earlier and we were talking about an earlier podcast I did with a mutual friend of ours, Chris Gray, and he made the move to Japan and back home again, and that was fascinating. And it's the whole fish out of water, for want of a better phrase. But anyway, so you moved out here in 2014, something like that, and before that we know each other, of course, through RMS. But you weren't always into sort of performance or modified street cars, as they call them over here.
Right. Yeah. No. My sort of I guess history, or where it started, was just through rallying. Rallying was a very big thing for me because my dad did it, and then subsequently uncles and cousins, and we're all involved in it in some way.
What did he drive?
So Dad was a co-driver.
Okay, brilliant.
He did rally a little bit back in the day, and I mean, I guess it's kind of interesting for the nerds out there. But so Dad had one of the first Mark 1 Escort RS 1600 twin cams, and its number plate was GNO421H. Okay, that's really nerdy, but I seen a car that was like the sister car to that many years later. But Dad primarily was a co-driver, and he was successful. He used to sit with a guy called Hugh O'Brien, and they were both called the Flying Vets because they're veterinary surgeons.
Oh, right, okay.
And they almost won the Northern Irish Rally Championship one year.
Cool.
And Dad used to do the Tarmac Championship. They even went to Sweden for the International Swedish Rally back in the 80s sometime.
And then do you remember this from growing up then? So this is where you get it from?
Well, I think what happened was Dad had a very bad accident. Hugh and Dad had a very bad accident in the 1985 Ulster Rally on the first stage, in fact, and Dad was almost killed.
Jesus.
So basically, the Mark II, the back bumper of the Mark II, ended up at the back of the back seat of Dad.
Wow. Okay.
It got squashed that much, and he was in hospital for a bit, and then he sort of stopped. But he had all these rally videos lying up around the house, and that's when I started. I was watching them, and of course, it was the best era. It was Group B.
Oh yeah.
So you can imagine, as a young kid watching Group B rally.
Very impressionable. Yeah, totally.
So that's kind of where that came from. And then, as I said, my uncle, he was a Mark II Escort guy, as most guys were back at that point. And he was a very good driver. To me, rallying was absolutely everything, and there was nothing else I wanted to do. And what happened to me in terms of my transition was we had gone rallying a little bit. I had started rallying. My first rally, I actually won it with my uncle. I was co-driving.
Was that in was it 106 or something, or what car was it in?
That was in not a full Group A Escort Cosworth.
Oh, right, okay.
It was it was a pretty good car, and it was in 2000, and it was at my local rally. And I pestered my uncle. I said, "You got to let me sit with you."
That must have been awesome.
It was amazing. Like, I was 18 years of age. I didn't do any pace notes because he knew the place like the back of his hand. So I just sat up.
You were just there for the grin factor.
As my dad said, you know, you're just a sack of potatoes in the passenger seat. So yeah, that was a pretty amazing day. But unfortunately, I think I peaked too early. Winning my first rally, it's kind of hard to live up to that.
In an Escort Cosy, absolutely. Yeah.
So then I co-drove a little bit more for my cousin, and that was all in 106s, and that pushed me into a 106 as well.
So is that where you have a real love of Peugeots or Peugeots, depending on where you sit in the Peugeot.
I think I'm a Peugeot guy, but no, that was actually more Dad. Again, just he had 505 or 604 V6s, and then a 505 V6 and a 605 V6, and he always had a 205 van. So I was, we were watching. Be watching like the World Championship back when the 206 was such a thing, and then of course the 306 Maxi was such a that's like literally my favorite car ever. If I won the lottery, that's what I'd go out and buy. But yeah, Peugeot. I remember what you said to me about a year ago on the forum when I put up a picture of Dad's 996, and you said to me, "Well, at least your dad has better taste than you."
Well, because of your love of Peugeot.
Exactly.
Well, which is kind of rich of me, but you're right to say sometimes for a reaction anyway, because I did have, and just for clarity here, that I did have a 106 GTI, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It was a great car, and there's a guy off RMS, and I'm struggling for his name at the moment, but he took me out in a 306 rally. I know these are both road cars, but phenomenal.
Wasn't Rob Gallagher, was it?
No, it wasn't actually. It was... who was it?
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but that was great cars. Yeah. But your dad has great taste in cars because he's a Porsche man.
Well, that's the thing now. He's gotten very snobby of late.
Yeah. You do get very snobby when you
when you upgrade.
When you go to the Stuttgart products.
Yeah, I'm still scrubbing it down with the Peugeots at the minute. No, it was. It was cool to see him get into something so nice.
Awesome. But back to, so you were loving the Peugeots. At what stage did you get a road car then, and what was it?
This is probably a funny one, Andrew, and people will probably be surprised. My first, I'm going to be putting myself in trouble here a little bit. So I my first car was a 306D Turbo S.
Yes, sir. Mid Ulster spec. Yeah, was it?
No.
Four necks in the back?
No, it was none of that nonsense. This is back when. Well, it wasn't. I mean, it was lowered, but it wasn't like this.
And was it screwed out?
No, it wasn't. None of that nonsense. I didn't partake in any of that. But the funny thing was, so I had my provisional license in the UK, and I was driving the car in the south because I was working in the south. So technically, I shouldn't have been doing any of that stuff.
Okay.
But so I actually didn't get my driver's license until I was 25 or 26, which is really, really odd for somebody who's
even
in the
cars.
cars.
You had been driving for a considerable amount of time.
Well, it was only 2 years. So, and the reason I started late was just because from our transition back to Northern Ireland.
Because this is because you lived in the south for a while.
Yeah, I worked down there. I worked in Monaghan for a little bit.
Okay.
And so I was driving down there on a provisional license because other people were driving on provisional licenses, even though they were Irish licenses and not Northern Irish licenses like mine. So that was my sort of way of looking at it, which was completely wrong. But yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, when I came home, then it was like, okay, time to get the license,
get the plastic card.
Right.
Very good, very good. So and then did that stage where you're like, right, I need to buy something that I would like to drive, or are you after the 306 or?
So with the 306 died a death. One day it just let go, and I then ended up getting a 206 Sport.
Okay.
And I got my 206 Sport, and 3 weeks later we bought the rally car.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we were sort of in. That's what happened.
And the rally car was
a 106.
Funnily enough, and is this a cup car then? Was it?
It was cup car shell and cup car suspension, and it didn't have a cup engine or gearbox, which was a big difference, and it didn't have cup brakes either. But it was a cup spec shell or whatever. And I was happy at the time because I think the car cost us like $6,000 or something, and a cup car at the time was twice that.
Okay.
I mean, I was just starting out, so I was just happy. And the funny thing was, when we went to do rallies, I always put myself in the cup car class, even though I knew those guys were had far better cars than
you
I
were
did.
at a disadvantage from the start.
Yeah, but I wanted that because I wanted it to push me on.
And where did you compete?
We competed a lot at autocross.
Okay.
Down in Monaghan and Cavan. So, and then I did Ahadui a couple of times as well. Done the All Track series, broke a gearbox twice.
Lovely.
And it was funny. It was 2009, and Wayne D from the forum as well, Wayne Douglas. So myself and Dad, Wayne, and my wife Chinazor, we went off to do All Track one day, and I'll see if anybody remembers this. There was like really bad rain that summer, and it was a day where one of the tunnels in Belfast, or the underpasses, got filled.
Yes, I remember the day. Yep,
it was such a bad day.
The balls at the falls got filled into the swimming pool. Yeah.
It was crazy, and it was the wettest day that we had ever seen ever. So Chinazor was sitting with me, and Wayne D was sitting with Dad, and yeah, we broke the gearbox that day too. It was the MA box. That's what it was from a 106. Was like cheese, and I wouldn't have been the easiest guy on a car either. My mechanical sympathy wouldn't have been
lacking.
It would be a bit lacking. Yeah, so
I have that problem myself now and again.
Yeah, not ideal for that particular car.
Yeah, fuck me. So you had the cup car. You had the 206. Then was your
little runaround.
Your runaround. So what stage did that change? Because it must have been around then that maybe we had sort of our paths maybe started to cross.
Yeah. So I think probably after the gearbox broke, and this was the second or third time, this rallying lark was getting expensive.
Oh, sorry. Do you know what? I was trying to. So yeah, it must have been around that sort of time that our paths maybe crossed with RMS, was it?
Yeah, in and around that time, rallying was getting rather expensive. Breaking gearboxes. Actually rolled the car once at about 5 miles per hour, which was not too fun. But yeah, it was just getting a little bit beyond me financially. And I mean, I'd always been buying Fast Car magazine and Revs and things like that. I was always buying those, and so I was into the scene, but I wasn't in it, so to speak. And then I think I probably found RMS probably through Graham Curry, because Graham would have been on rally forums, and that's where I was, and he would be linking articles and stuff. So then I ended up going on to the forum, and I think back in the day I probably commented way too much at the start because I just wanted to be involved, and I know I probably sort of drove a couple of people mad, as being a newbie who was commenting on everything.
Just had to comment on everything, because 0 to 100%.
I was trying to be part of it, I guess. But,
yeah.
I think the other thing was too, when I had come back from Galway, I didn't know anybody, and then I can't remember. There was a meet that was organised for Gosford Park.
Yep.
And I met up with a couple of the guys in, I think it was Portadown, in my little 206, and I suddenly realised that I felt very out of place.
Okay, yeah.
Chris Gray rolls in a 180 SX, fully kitted.
Yeah.
And this really hot chick with him. And I look to my left, and there's no hot chick with me, and I'm like,
how glamorous do you make Portadown sound?
Well, I mean, at that point when Chris rolled in, I just thought this was so cool, and so yeah, we went to that meet. One of the coolest things that happened that day too. Again, this kind of made me hate Chris at the start. Didn't like him too much. We were turning right out onto the Newry Armagh Road, and Chris just drops the clutch and let this big long power slide out of the junction, and I just thought, God, I hate that guy. Absolutely riddled with jealousy. And then we pulled up at the meet, and yeah, there was loads of really. I really remember that day very fondly. There was all the Lurgan crew were there. Daddy C was there. Jim was there with the barbecue, I think. Jim Cupra, and it was just great fun sitting with people, and I didn't know anybody, but everybody was very welcoming.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was hooked on being on RMS and going to these meets. That was just all I sort of lived for at the time.
Yeah, it's great. Well, it's something we were talking about before the show, just how many really good friends that we've all made through the forum, and it means so much to hear that, that you could come back from Galway and then get straight back into stuff. And so you felt a wee bit out of place maybe in your 206.
Yeah, the 206 wasn't really cutting it, and then because I was then palsy-walsy with Wayne D, who had the 106 rally. I was also on the 106 rally register in the UK.
Okay.
And then Simon 998, I think is his username on RMS. Simon, he had a 16 valve conversion on an S2 rally, Bianca white, same colour as Wayne's. And Simon, we were chatting about me buying the car, and Simon says, "You better come and get this car because it's going to be taken away if you don't." And so I went and got it. And as you know, Andy, when it comes to projects and me, they don't usually go too well.
Oh, God.
So the rally, I bought the rally.
Sold the 206, did you?
No, 206 stayed.
Okay.
So that was 2006. I had bought the 206, and then the rally was got, I think, maybe 2007. And then I got it fixed by somebody else. Another RMS user. I can't remember his name, but a really good guy. He was into like starter turbos and stuff like that, and he'd done the engine for me.
Okay.
And brought it home. It was never started, and I never ever heard it. And the car just sat there. I was terrible for buying cars and not wanting to sell them.
Okay.
And then there was a certain Mr. And then years went by where I would literally go to meets and I would go with Wayne.
Yep.
I'd either go in the rally with Wayne, or I think he had a DC5 Type R at a time as well. So I would just go with him, and I was okay with that. And then a certain Mr. John Peden from Lurgan was building this 106 that when I seen it at the start, I was like, this is completely nuts. I just thought it was fantastic. And I text John, and I said, "John, I'm not coming to buy this car." I said, "I just need to come down and have a look at it." And I drove onto John's driveway, and I just seen the 106 lying literally lying at the bottom of the driveway, sitting on the ground. I just thought, this is just fantastic. I have to have this. And yeah, I bought it a couple of weeks later. I bought it the day before. Do you remember we did the RMS track day down at Kirkestown? I bought it the day before that, and I arrived into Lurgan, or into Friar Tuck's, which was like a little place off of
just at the roundabout there at Lurgan. Yep.
So I arrived at the Friar Tuck's, and everybody's jaw was on the floor because obviously they were expecting John, and of course it was me. And at the time I had this big mop of floppy black hair.
That's right, yeah.
And everybody's like, what's going on? And then we drove, and that was actually the first time I ever done any video too, where I did a music montage. Was that RMS meet at Kirkestown. So here I was driving the retro with the camera out the window, facing the back, facing it forward. Drove into Cumber Square, and again people were like, "What's going on?" Like, Patrick's driving, John's car.
Yeah.
So that was a really special morning. To see the reactions from everybody. Yeah. And just, again, that particular car, it didn't matter where you went. That thing would, outshine anything just because it was so wild. I remember
we'll have to get a picture of it into the show notes.
Yeah, I'll definitely get one to you.
Yeah.
And then one time I was going down to Dublin, and I, on purpose, wanted to go down into like the sort of touristy area with the car. I just wanted to see the reaction of people. So I pulled up behind this Ferrari, and literally nobody's looking at it. Yeah. Everybody's looking at me, and I just dumped the car on the ground at the traffic light, and everybody's pointing, and kids are waving, and it was a really cool car, and people would literally follow me in it. Yeah. To find out what the whole thing was about, Yeah.
Isn't it funny how people look at cars? When we were at that Gears and Grinds earlier on, and there was the Pagani Huayra, and now we did take 2 or 3 minutes to look around it, and it is incredible. But then we spent maybe half an hour doing pretzels. You know what I mean? Like,
this is it, yeah. Because I think, you know, the Pagani's cool, and it's obviously a very expensive motor car, but when, you know, obviously the Impreza itself, you know, it just holds a lot more weight for us. Yeah. Because it just has that history, and, you know, it's just so cool, especially with it being a genuine, you know, pro-drive car.
Yeah, but cool. So you had the, and that was that the Retro Spectrum then, was it?
Yeah, it was. I think it was nicknamed by John and Esther, and Esther was no longer with us. Esther passed away a few years ago, and Esther was great fun. I actually was coming out here to see my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time, and I said to Esther, "You can take the car to the shows for me."
Yes.
And she absolutely loved that, and she would appear to shows with the wig on.
Oh, brilliant!
This big black curly
hair. Yeah.
She was great fun, and I was getting sent photographs. Oh yeah, we're at this show or we're at that show. But so to me, I know how much she loved the car, so that's why I was like, yeah, you take it, you enjoy it, because I'm going to be away, because I was away for like a month or something like that. Yep. So she enjoyed it, and it was cool to be able to do that.
Alright, so here, tell me about you had a wide arch 306 as well.
Yes, I did. Well, the D Turbo was not just the only 306 I had. So I think it was maybe mid 2012, and I was doing my usual searches on Dundeel or, you know, Piston Heads, Impreza Type R, Dimma, whatever it was, Evo, and obviously very rarely anything Dimma came up. But on Dundeel, I had Dimma, and 2 306 Dimmas came up. Not just one, but 2 of them. So there was the ex-Demon Tweaks car, which was like a greeny colour. It was there, but it wasn't in the best of shape. And then there was this yellow one, dandelion yellow, like the Peugeot 406 coupe colour. Yeah. And there was no price on it. And the guy was telling me, oh, you know, this car was like, you know, 40,000 euros when it was new, and was just had a new paint job and all this sort of stuff. And I rang Wayne D again. Me and Wayne are very tight when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I said, look what's on Dundeel. And now I had only just sold the 206. So my driveway at this time had a 206 Sport. Up until this point, I had 206 Sport. It had the 106 Cup car. It had the white 106 Rally project car, and the blue 106 Rally as well. And I just sold the 206 because at this time, 2012, I'm in the mind of I'm going to be going to America, so I'm not buying any more cars. So
said no man ever. I'm not buying any more cars.
Oh God! And I got Wayne to text the guy. What is he looking for? And Wayne says he's texting me back, and I says $5,000. He says no. I said $6,000. He says no. $7,000. No. I says it couldn't be any more than $8,000 or $9,000. Nobody's going to buy it at that price. He says it's less, and I says get away. He says 4,000 euros, and I don't mind saying that price because that car will never be sold. So don't anybody get excited. But it was 4,000 euros. Wayne and I were in Dublin the following morning at 10 o'clock looking at the car, and the Dimma we parked up. We didn't know what direction this guy was coming from, so the two of us are like 2 meerkats in the front, looking from left to right to see, you know, who's going to see this car first. And I looked to the right, and all I could see was this thing coming up the road. And I looked around at Wayne with a face like, what? You know, this is crazy. And I told Wayne before we got out of the car, I said, okay, I'm not test driving this car. You're going to have to do it for me, because there could be a hole there could be Fred Flintstone style hole in the floor.
You were still taking it home?
I'm buying this car. Yeah. Didn't matter. So Wayne took it for a drive and came back and just gave me the thumbs up. And I was like, okay. And I was thinking to myself, I can't afford to buy this car. I had enough. I sort of nearly had the money. And then Wayne says to me, he says, I'll get you I'll loan you the 500 for it. So the other problem was my girlfriend was coming in like 2 days later, so I couldn't be buying a car and me meant to be moving to America. It didn't make any sense. I couldn't explain my way out of it. So she arrived anyway, picked her up, brought her home. She's suffering from jet lag. So I said to her, I have to go out here. So I had to race from Omagh to Monaghan town, get euros, then drive to Armagh and give Wayne the money. And then the next day we were heading to a wedding in Cork. So as I was heading to Cork in the rally, Wayne was heading down to get the Dimma. It was ridiculous. And then, of course, my girlfriend was there for a couple of weeks, so the car was bought. Wayne had it, and he was driving around in it. And there's a very funny story, actually related to a ex-tarmac champion for that car. I'll get into it now in a minute, but or should I don't know whether I should or not. But anyway, it was just funny that he had the car and he was driving around. People seen him driving the car because I mean yellow.
You could a wide arch yellow
Dimma. I mean, you couldn't not see it. But so when she went, I dropped her at the airport, and literally on the way back home, I had to stop off to get a look at the car. I was just dying to see it. And this is a car that I wanted since I was 14. This wasn't like, I'm into Peugeots and now they've suddenly found out about this Dimma. I knew about this car. I knew that this car existed because of the 306 Maxi, which is what the car is based upon, and always wanted one. And then when it came up, I couldn't not get it. Yeah. But the story with the ex-tarmac champion is Wayne was coming out of Newry on the way home to his place, and this guy in a BMW came racing up behind him, going up a hill, and overtook him before the brow of the hill. So Wayne naturally just sort of reacted and flashed the lights at him. And then Wayne was on his phone, looking at his phone, and the guy was in front of him, and the next minute the guy stops short, pulls up, takes Wayne off the, sort of forces him onto the shoulder. Yeah. Gets out of the car, comes bulling over to the window, and all Wayne can think is, please don't hit the car.
It's not mine.
It's not mine. Don't hit it. And of course, the Dimma's got like steel body panels. They're not fiberglass. So if you hit, like, I think the car is maybe one of 9 in the world that has steel bodies.
So you just can't get them.
Yeah, you can't get it. You get obviously the fiberglass bits and pieces, but of course it would devalue the car. And then these other guys pull up in a van, and the guy who was like giving Wayne a hard time is like, basically saying that he knew who he was, and if he ever did anything like that again, there was going to be a problem. I think the guy thought that he was taking pictures of his car or something.
Right, like okay, yeah.
So he got really annoyed. So, yeah, that was the next tarmac champion that got involved.
Oh, lovely.
With the Dimma. So, I'm not going to say your name, but that was funny. But the Dimma, it's now white.
Yeah.
Me and John, when I had the Retro Spectrum, I still had it. And John and I talked about him painting the car, so we did a switch of a deal, and then John painted it for me into white. Him and Chris sort of talked me into doing the white, because I was going to go again with the dandelion yellow, which I loved. Yeah, it was a really cool colour because there was no other Dimma that colour. Yeah, I remember the photos of it as well, and I must put in the show notes. They're striking. I mean, you see that car, and the way the how white it is, it's got such a presence on the road. But it's now white, and the plan with it is I want to get it caged, and it's not going to be a race car. It's not going to see any of that, but I want to get it to where it looks like a maxi, and it's halfway there anyway. But it's a few pounds to spend on it yet. But the Dimma. That's a car that'll never be sold ever. No. It's just it's too sentimental to me.
Unbelievable. What a story, and there's my unbelievable game. So you had suddenly had a driveway full of Peugeots in various
states, yeah.
And then you must have been considering starting Autolifers around that sort of stage as well, were you?
Well, what happened then was, I think that was 2009 with the 106, and then this sport called drifting was being talked about an awful lot.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard it's a bit of crack,
So I decided to, the first event that I actually went and looked at was with a friend of mine, Darren McKelvey from Castledurg. he had an S14. And I think Graham Curry was there too, and we were out videoing it. And I did a very, just a normal sort of video. And that's kind of sort of ties in with doing the videos with RMS. So I had done the Kirkustown meet.
Yep.
Graham and I and John Peden and I think Simon. There was a whole bunch of people. Simon with the Manta. There was a whole and then Phil with the Jetta. There was a whole bunch of us did shows that year.
Yeah.
We had great crack doing that, and I started videoing a little bit then. And then I wanted to go back to motorsport in some way, and drifting was just something new. I'd watched a little bit of Formula D on sort of Sky or satellite or whatever. And so I went to the Ulster Drift Championship with Darren, like I said, and videoed a little bit there. And then somebody said, why don't you go to Pro Drift? So I went down to Pro Drift to Punchestown, did a video down there on my little SD camera.
Yeah.
Really crappy.
Yeah.
I did a little edit of it the day after, put it up on the Drift Ireland forum, and they all went completely ballistic for it. And then at that point, I went and got a HD camera, and then that was it. I was just into video and Pro Drift, and that's sort of what that led on to was me doing work for OMG Drift, which was a site based here in the States. And was actually a very popular website with a lot of the drivers, because it was kind of like we're not taking this too seriously. Yeah. But we still reported on stuff and still did really good stuff. And then that sort of led me on to wanting to do more sort of car features. And that didn't really not sit well, but it didn't fit the OMG Drift style.
Yeah, it was something different again.
Yeah, it was something different again. And that's when I shot Chris Gray's A86 for Motor Mavens.
Yes.
And I was loving that. To do it for Motor Mavens, they had really good work, real high quality stuff. And
are they still going?
I think Antonio still has it going in some form. It's not what it was back in the day, but I think it might still be there.
Where are they based?
Well, Antonio's in California.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So actually I've met Antonio a few times at SEMA here in Vegas, but that's another story.
SEMA, he's dropping Vegas. Imagine.
But yeah, I actually covered RMS's was it the 10th birthday party?
Yeah, at that much more
Junction 1.
Yeah,
is it?
yeah.
Yeah, so I actually there's
much more modest places than SEMA.
Right.
Yeah.
But I done an article for Motor Mavens about the actual about that particular show, and
that was a great day.
It was fantastic. There was such great stuff at it. Even the weather wasn't great that day, but it was still a really good show, and the turnout was fantastic, and some really great stuff there. I had the rally at that point, the Indigo Blue rally, because that's what I had at the show. I remember that. But
so you were doing video, you were doing some features for Motor Maven. So then was that giving you the flavour of, right, I could maybe do something else here? Yeah,
well, what happened was I was very excited to do stuff, so I was wanting to do stuff every week, and there was an article I did for Motor Mavens. It was to do with the rally spectators through the 80s, and I'd done all these photographs and wrote this big article, and it just took forever to get it published. And Tony was a very busy guy, and he was always like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. And I thought to myself, you know what, I could literally do this myself. I could create a blog. I have people I know that would be really good at doing this. Yeah. And we could do it back home. There's nothing really like that. And at the time, I don't think there was really a blog. Probably the nearest thing was maybe... well, I know there was Juicebox, which is still going really strong to this day, down in the south with Neil, which he does really great stuff. But I don't think there's much in the way of in Northern Ireland. Probably I Love Bass was the closest to that, but they were doing a lot of video content. So I thought, you know what, we'll do, because I'm into, if you looked at the cars I had a car on hydraulics. I had a rally car. Yep. I had a lot of different stuff, and I still am into a lot of different types of cars. I like most of the scene, except felt spec cars. Don't like that. I did an article on that on Autolifers, that was actually the highest liked article on Autolifers. Yeah. It was like over 1,000, maybe 1,200 likes on Facebook or something.
Yep.
Pissed a lot of people off too, which I didn't mean to do, but I knew that was going to happen with people. Obviously people have their style or whatever. But I just felt that I needed to do something myself. So I started a little blog on Tumblr where I was just posting other people's photographs. And then I was trying to build up like some sort of a following. So I did the Facebook page. And then I talked to Chris. And I talked to Graham Corrie, and I said, "Guys, we should do something here. This is what I'm proposing." So then we started it on the 1st of January 2013, and the response was fantastic. And I have to give props to you, Andy, because you allowed us to have a little small thread for the first couple of months where whenever a new article was coming up, I could pop into it and say, "Hey." We just shot a Mike Fitz's Mazda RX-7 drift car.
Yeah.
And that gave us great traction, especially from people, obviously through RMS. But it helped sort of push the site on and get it out there and get it known. And then it kind of snowballed from that. And then, I mean, in the early days we were putting out 3 articles a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Wow, yeah.
And I shot. I don't know, I probably shot maybe 7 or 8 cars in the first couple of months. So every weekend I was trying to get out and shoot.
Busy.
Yeah, it was tough work, but it was rewarding at the same time when you seen the response that people would get or gave to it.
Well, that's like full-time job almost. Commitment, isn't it?
The funniest thing was I actually went part-time at work, and then I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do now. And that was maybe a little bit foolish of me at the start, because obviously to try and generate any money off that is very, very difficult. But I just thought any spare time I have, I'm just going to dedicate it to getting this site going. But that's how Autolifers came about, through the help of Graham and Chris, and I think D Murphy was part of that in the early stages too, and then John Moog was part of it as well. There was a good group of guys that were part of that early sort of process for us.
Excellent. And then after, so that was going on anyway, and obviously then you were meeting loads of people and all the rest. But then you're going to have this life-changing move then, and decide to take yourself 6,000 miles
across the world.
Across the world. Like, how did that come about, and what was the story?
So that was in the works for a long time. That was not something that was kind of sudden, and I know, like, I talked about it quite a bit on the forum too. Like, I would have said that I was leaving, and probably was meant to leave sooner than I did. But so no,
you were maybe getting comments like, you're still leaving, right?
Yeah. You're not gone yet. But yeah, I was my girlfriend. I met her here in Vegas. We were hooked up by some mutual friend. Says, you guys need to talk.
All right, okay.
I was like, okay. So then I come over to meet her, and at the end of the 2 weeks, surprisingly, she still wanted to talk to me.
All right, okay.
So yeah, and then we basically did 7 years long distance.
Wow, that's serious long distance.
Yeah, and she made a huge impact on me. I mean, my form name Nazor is part of her name, so she is Chi Nazor. So Nazor, and then even Sothebys Patrick, like Sothebys Productions and all that nonsense. That's again part of her name. And she was very influential on me, because when I met her, I basically had my leaving cert. I didn't have my degree or my master's or anything like that. So she really pushed me towards doing that, and that's what took us so much time for me to actually get here, because I needed to do that. So you took the time to put together. So whilst you were doing Autolifers on one side, you were doing Autolifers and working, and then working towards some qualifications as well. Yeah, I was doing my master's and doing my degree, my degree and then my master's, obviously.
All right, okay. Wow.
So that was tough. But yeah, it's what needed to be done. So we basically did 7 years long distance, and
unreal.
Yeah,
and then it got to the stage where, right, I need to. You've got your qualifications and all the rest, and I'm going to make the move. Was that
pretty much? I graduated in December 2013, and I was here 2 weeks later.
Out the door.
Yeah, out and away. But I was ready for it. I was absolutely ready for it. And I was super excited to come, not really to come here, but just to be with her, because obviously this, once or twice a year, seeing each other for 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
That's pretty difficult.
Oh, I would say.
So, yeah, it was great to actually finally get here.
That's unbelievable. And then you were, and I say unbelievable is a word I've been accused of using far too much in both the podcast and reviews of cars.
That's unbelievable.
No, it's quite believable. So, okay. So then you made this move. You obviously had things were going great with Autolifers and all the rest, and it obviously kept you very, very busy at home doing all these features and all the rest. So how, for someone like myself, and I wouldn't be particularly the most outgoing person in the world, but how did you get integrated into life over here? Like, did you have a job to go to? Obviously you had your other half at least to hopefully stay with and all the rest. But how do you build a life halfway around the world then?
It's not easy. I mean, and to be honest, I did have it easy, because I mean, literally we came over and we were already sort of pretty much set up in that respect. But obviously coming over and the expectations of getting a job and getting paid well and all that sort of stuff, and just moving on, especially after spending so much time, the last 5 or 6 years, getting my degree and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes so whenever I was coming over, I was looking at job potential for me.
Yeah.
And things were looking quite good on paper. But obviously when you get here and then the reality sets in, and when you get into the job, it's not quite exactly the way they say it is. So when I was back home, I was working a very ordinary job. I worked in a care home as a senior care worker. And my degree was in psychology, and then master's was in applied psychology and mental health. So I was sort of going all that direction.
Yeah.
So I seen a job here that was basically going to be paying me twice what I was earning back home. I thought, this is fantastic.
Yep, you're going to be living like a king.
Yeah, this is going to be easy.
Sweet.
I'm going to get this car. I'm going to get that car.
Yeah.
And everybody at home is going to be so jealous. And unfortunately, that was not the case. The job was it just didn't pan out the way I thought it was going to pan out, and it made life and the transition very, very difficult.
Did you have any major hoops to jump through, like working visas and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So when I first came in January, and then my wife and I got married at the end of that month purely for the paperwork. I seen it as we were getting married anyway, and that is what it is. But it was really for the paperwork. That's how we were doing it. So after getting back home, I ended up missing my flight, unfortunately. And because it was so expensive, because it was the summertime, I ended up having to stay at home. And came back in September, and then it was my work permit arrived then. So it did take a little bit of time to get into the swing of things. And then I started working as a psychosocial rehabilitation individual, I guess you would call.
And what does that mean in
English?
in English, lay terms?
The easiest way to sort of describe it is, it was kind of like I'm a therapy light. So we weren't going on doing full therapy with somebody, but we were like going to somebody's house, sitting down, like going through interventions and objectives with them in terms of their mental health. And it was very sporadic work. So I would have I remember one particular day I went out, I had a full day's worth of work in front of me. First client cancels. Go to the next person's house, they cancel. Go to the third person's house, they're not even there. So I spent the entire day driving around, and I earned absolutely nothing.
I was going to say, so you didn't land over here, and it was just, you were just all by V8 this and V8 that.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
That didn't come.
No, and things were expensive here by comparison to back home. Like back, and this is like 2014. Like an M3 E46, just as an example, $15,000 here. I think they were maybe 4, 5 or 6 maybe at the time back home for something similar. Obviously that's sterling I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What we're talking about, $8,000 or $9,000. So cars here were very expensive, and the thing was too, they don't really have hot hatches here. They're getting there now.
Yes,
but there's
we saw a lot of Civic Type R's today. Funnily enough,
right, there was like 4 or 5 of them in a row.
Yeah.
But the thing was, back then, I mean, nothing was. It wasn't like there was like a back catalogue of like cars from from 2000.
Yes,
that were like 4 or 5 grand, and you could easily get something sporty and
they were relatively hot. Yeah.
So it was like I didn't feel comfortable getting anything at the time. Financially, I couldn't because I was trying to like build here. So yeah, I was driving Priuses and Hyundai Accents and
nice. Pete, who moved over here, I think he had Hyundai Accent as well.
Saturn Vue was another car. I did have a Lexus GS350 for a little bit of time. That was my wife's car. I used to get to use it the odd time.
Yeah.
But
well, funnily enough, you picked me up in a Lexus
Gx470, yeah.
Which a Gx470 to us is a long wheelbase Toyota Land Cruiser, which is awesome.
Yeah, and it's a great machine. Again, not my car. So the first car I ended up buying here was, and there's actually a video on YouTube on the Autolifers TV YouTube channel.
Okay, check it out, folks.
It was a Daewoo Lanos.
Ooh, sexy.
I did a review of it, and what a bad car! It was really bad. I bought it from a guy and drove it drove it onto the freeway, and automatically heard the drive shaft was crackling. So the boot had gone, and all the grease had come out, and so that was like, you'll see it in the video if you watch it, but I'll not go through it now. But yeah, that was a really, really bad car. A bit of a death trap too. When you would brake hard, it would lock the back wheels like you were lifting the handbrake. There was a couple of sideways moments. One day it actually saved me. I was coming down the freeway, and I seen these like emergency services off to the right, and I started slowing down, and I started rubbernecking, as they say. And I was looking over at the side, and the next time I turned around, and my lane had stopped completely dead. And I'm doing 60 miles an hour, and I'm maybe, I think maybe 100 yards from the back of that car. So I'm not getting stopped. So I hit the brakes, and the car locks up completely sideways from the back locking up, and I'm about to hit this car, and I think it was probably because of my rallying days. When you lock up, when you have that motorsport, you have the theory in your head, okay, if you lock the car up, you need to come off the brakes again.
The cadence braking here.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, of course that is kind of like, not the natural thing to do is sit on the brakes and wait to stop, which wasn't happening. So the very last second, and I closed my eyes because I was hitting this car, and just as I was about, I literally went, squeezed up my body, I just came off the brakes, and the car popped out into the next lane. I gathered it up, and this couple drove up alongside me, and they were giving me the thumbs up as if to say, "Well done." But that car was a real heap.
So how do you get from you've landed your job's not what you expected, but at least you've got your working visa, you've got your Daewoo. How do you get from there to knowing guys like Pete with his Impreza and Andrew and stuff like that? So
I mean, that's the beauty, and we've all been through this for the most part, us petrol heads. Once we can meet people, and if we have that common sort of car thing, there's always something to talk about, and and again, because I had a camera, the camera was a big thing, because people would see you taking photographs of their car, and then they would come up to you, and you would be asking to see the picture, or where can I see it? Yeah. And then that would have got me into people would just know who I was. Like I was saying, Tyler, he and I met at a car meet.
This is Tyler who runs the Gears and Grinds events we met earlier on,
Yes. So we met there. He thought I looked like I knew what I was doing. He's doing photography as well. The two of us started talking. He asked me what my favourite car was. I said a Ferrari F40. He gave me a hug, and because that's his favourite car. Yeah. We just kicked it off really, really, really well at the start. And subsequently you meet other people through those people. Actually, a good friend of mine, Doug Nielsen, he actually lives literally just down the street from me. He's in the same complex as I am. I was driving down one day and I seen this 993 Carrera sitting outside of his house, and every day I would come down, I would look to see it as if it was there. And one day he was coming in, so I thought this is the perfect opportunity to go and talk to this guy. So I sheepishly pull up, because you need to be very careful in America when you pull up on somebody. You know, you never know how people will take this.
They might pull out something on you.
Right. Luckily, Doug's Canadian, so we're all good. And I spoke to Doug for 5 minutes, and the following weekend, he and I were ripping around Spring Mountain Racetrack in his 993.
Oh, awesome!
And again, it just came very, very easily in terms of that. Myself and Andrew, that was actually a funny one. When I came here, I sort of avoided anybody from back home.
Okay.
Not that I have a problem with anybody from back home. I just thought, I'm here. I don't necessarily want to meet somebody that lives 2 streets down from me. I'm here, and this is my new life. I'm just going to create it, whatever.
Sure.
And I will hold my hands up and say that was the wrong attitude. But I was at another meet that Tyler organised, and through another person, Matthew Newton, who's actually he actually works at Spring Mountain Racetrack now. He's like the car sales guy out there. Very interesting guy. But Matt says to me, "Hey Patrick, I want to introduce you to my Scottish friend. You probably know him." I thought to myself, well, Matt, I'm not Scottish.
Northern Ireland, Scotland, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not Scottish, but okay. So then Andrew comes over, and then instantly it's Northern Irish accent, and I'm like, Matt, you haven't a clue. And myself and Andrew sat down at the table with a bunch, there was 2 or 3 other Americans there with us, and the two of us just started talking, and nobody could understand a word we were saying, because we were all situation. So nobody knew. And we were completely nerding out. Both of us are into rallying. Both of our fathers were involved in rallying or motorsport back in the day. And I just thought, geez, Andrew is just another version of me here in Vegas. Yeah. And we just got on so well. And it's like I know him for years, but I literally only know him since the start of COVID.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we all I was out in his 964 or the
G series car.
I keep getting it wrong. In his Porsche.
Yeah.
Earlier, and yeah, we were totally hitting it off. And I was actually blown away when I was mentioning about the video and said or on this website RMS, and I was, oh yeah, I know RMS. I'm like,
yeah, Andrew's actually, he was born here, so he was, and he moved back home for a time, and then he came back out here. So he's here about 15 years.
Yeah, he's here a while, and that's some business he's involved with. Absolutely incredible. So that's cool that you've met these people. You've done some or seen some cool stuff, or went to some amazing shows.
Yeah, I've obviously SEMA.
Yeah,
I mean SEMA kind of spoils you. Renus, Renault LV on the forum, will tell you the same thing. It is pretty amazing. I've done it. I did it every year up until the year that I had my wedding here. When I had Renus over. My cousin also. The two of them went. I brought them down and got them signed up for the media pass. And
is it held in a big convention centre here, or where?
Yeah. It's literally it sort of runs parallel to where we are. So yeah, so
just off the strip then.
Yeah, and the two boys, they spent the entire day. I think maybe they did 2 or 3 days at it. I literally couldn't do it because obviously the wedding was on the Saturday. I think it was on the Saturday, so I didn't have any. I was picking them guys up and trying to juggle work, doing all that other stuff. So I brought the boys down, and yeah, it's an amazing show. Just some of the best stuff at it.
I think it's a big thing for American manufacturers then to show off their, like Geneva would be for all the European guys.
Stuff. Yeah, well, you'd see a lot of Asian companies too.
Oh right, okay.
Will come over. They have like a tent where they have like first timers, and there's a lot of Asian companies would be over, sort of playing their wares as well. But yeah, it's fantastic. The best booth every year is the Toyo Tires Tread Pass.
Okay,
it's just if that was the year that I missed it, or the year that I missed SEMA, I did get to see the Tread Pass. I made sure that I walked down just to get a taste of it.
And what is Toyo Tires tread past then?
They have like a little special area that's sort of between two of the centres, two of the buildings, and to get from one to the next, you have to walk through the tread pass. And they literally have, it's probably some of the, well, not probably, definitely some of the best cars in the entire event are there, and I would not miss that for the world.
Okay.
They're just, it's really, really good. Yeah, it's fantastic. But SEMA is a great event. What else? I think
you were telling me that you did some commission stuff. You snapped a rough car, didn't you?
Yeah. So again, my good friend Doug. Doug it was actually Dad was coming over, and Doug says, "I think you and your dad might like to see something that I'm looking at." And I says, "No problem." So we moseyed over to a Porsche specialist here in town, and Doug says to me, "Make sure you bring the camera with you." So I brought it anyway, and the next minute we walk down, and in the back there's this black 911 covered in dust, looking rather sorry for itself. And I look down on the wheel and it says roof right on the centre cap.
Yeah.
And I thought, nah, this is not the legit one, because if this is a legit car, why is it sitting in the back here covered in dust?
Yeah.
So the whole premise of that day was for Doug to find out whether this was the real car. So basically at the end of it, he found out it was the real car. So over COVID, he took his time and he basically rebuilt that entire car. He had the engine redone, turbos redone, gearbox redone. I had spent some days helping him out. I helped him put on the gearbox. I helped him and a friend put in the engine. And then Doug says to me, "Would you take some photographs of the car?" And I said, "Of course." I had been taking photographs all along. So I have loads of photographs of the whole build and whatnot. And Doug says he was going to put the car into RMS Sothebys.
The other RMS?
Is it RMS? Or maybe
I don't think it is, yeah.
Yeah, or no, RM Sothebys.
RM Sothebys.
RM Sothebys. So he's going to put that in there, and I said, okay, that's cool. So these cars go for extreme prices, but we didn't know how extreme it was actually going to go.
Okay.
And so I done the photographs. The car was sent off. Doug says, "Oh, it's going to be on this date, this time." So I tell Dad, and Dad's back home in Northern Ireland.
Roughly when was this? What year was this?
This was only, I would say this was the start of 21.
Okay, so last year.
Yeah, last year. And car went in for auction. Me and Dad are watching it online.
And this you did the snaps for Sotheby's, did you?
Yeah, this was I did for their catalogue.
Awesome.
So that was kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, very cool.
And to get paid for it, that was pretty cool as well. And so we were watching the car anyway, and there's a couple of cars in between we were watching, and they weren't getting to super high prices, and I was kind of like, oh God, what's going to happen now? So, long story short, we get to like 500 grand. I go thinking, it's kind of done at this point.
That's unreal.
And it just kept going.
Yeah.
And me and Dad were texting each other back and forth. It has to be finished now. It has to be finished.
Yeah.
And it just kept going. So it basically ended up being like 700 grand for this car.
That is unreal.
And it was the work that he had put into it was great. Like he had a roll cage in it, but he had covered the roll cage in such a way that you barely wouldn't even have seen it. It was just it was a peach of a car, 4-wheel drive, I think it was twin turbo, and 500 brake horsepower.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal car.
But that's just £700,000. That's like I was at the Classic Car Show in the NEC in Silverstone. Have a huge auction on it, but very little would go for anything. Like, and okay, yes, some stuff is going for 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, but very little would go. That sort of
that kind of money.
Yeah.
No, it was absolutely crazy. But it was nuts. But it's such a cool thing to say that. You shot the car. 2, you sort of helped a little bit, with putting the engine in. Just and seeing the whole build process. That was really, really cool.
Awesome. Any pictures of that? Because then we can share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Send us some stuff, and we'll put it in the show notes. So
for sure.
That's incredible. So that sort of brings us up to now. So what's next for Patrick in Vegas?
Yeah, that's a good question, Andy. So I was home 3 weeks ago. Got to see Dad's Porsche, his new one.
Yeah, he's a 997.2.
Yeah, Carrera S.
Guards red.
Guards red manual.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning car. And yeah, I think America has been great fun to a point, but it has become a bit of the last couple of years, especially COVID, and then without getting too far into it, but the politics of the country, it's not. It's a very. I find it very uneasy living here now. It's changed quite a bit for me.
Okay.
Just the way I see it. I know it's pretty much probably been the same.
Well, like the world has changed a lot in the last lot of years, you know.
That's true. That is true.
You know, whether it's Trump, Brexit, COVID, Ukraine, you know, there's
so much going on.
There is, yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously the other thing is too, Dad is getting on in years. Getting from here to home is not the easiest thing to do because you're losing so much time.
Tell me about it. I was stuck in New York all day earlier on the week off with some cancelled flights, which was an absolute pain in the arse.
Yeah. For me, it's like I was telling you earlier, the flight home, JFK to Dublin was 4 hours, 4.5 hours.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Which was super fast. Well, we had 6 hours of a layover in JFK.
Oh, you spent more time
in JFK than we did in the actual flight over. So I don't know. I think I'd love to stay, but I'd like to be at home and to be with Dad because me and Dad are like, you know, we're father and son, but we're like friends because we worked together for a good long time as well. So we're very, very close in that respect, and you know, I think, and of course my siblings live there too, but I think for me personally, I would like to be there for him, you know, because I mean, with Mum passing away a couple of years ago, it's not that he's on his own, but I'd like to be there and not really be here because I mean this place has lots of pros, it has quite a few cons, and it's just whether I'm prepared to sort of live through that and to be accepting of it.
There certainly seems to be a lot of opportunity here. When I look at the US, when I look at people who are in motorsport, drifting and things like that, especially look at some of the guys like Dean Kearney and stuff like that who have come over as drift guys or whatever else, you know, there is huge opportunity, but life is different here too. I'm just coming here as a tourist, and I'm just dazzled by the bright shiny things, you know, especially here in Vegas, and it's absolutely it's fascinating, and today has just been so awesome because it just gives you a flavour of it. Like, it's not a totally different, but it is a different life out here.
There is a difference to it. There's no two ways of looking at it. You know, you have to see those differences to sort of believe them.
We were sitting in traffic earlier on, and there was this absolute heap of dung pulled up beside us. It's like a 70s coupe, American absolute heap of crap, and like it was falling to pieces. And then immediately we have the MOT conversation, like what sort of testing? You said, well, it has to do a smog test, so in other words, does it meet the emissions?
That's it.
Yeah, and that's it. And away you go. But it's just a different way of thinking about things, and people just have different opinions about their you know, people are maybe more individualistic here too, for better or worse, and it is just different. I suppose I only see when you're coming over on holiday, you just see a snapshot. Yeah,
no, that's probably one of the biggest things with here is that sort of individual my rights, my opinion, and my opinion only.
Yeah,
and then not realizing that, you know, there's other people. We have to live with each other.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really important. But, you know, a lot of people will sort of trample over that, and I think that's the difficulty I have, because I hear about it at work all the time. This sort of individualistic way of looking at things is very selfish, and I think it's okay for me living here, but when we start to bring up kids here, that's where I really begin to worry. That's my biggest thing.
Well, look, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because that individualistic thing is, you know, that American way where you can just start from nothing, and that you know, maybe that sort of mindset with the plus opportunity means that you can a lot of people can do well. Like we were at that show earlier, and there's a lot of people who clearly do very well for themselves, and a lot of people are self-made.
Absolutely, no, and it's that. I think it's the balance of that. But maybe there isn't a balance, because in order to be successful, you need to be maybe that little bit selfish.
Yeah,
and then that sort of feeds into itself, and then that creates more.
Yeah. But although at the same time, the people we met at the Gears and Grinds were
very
all
cool.
Were so cool. Yeah. We didn't get our free drinks. We were offered free drinks. And
that's right. From that lovely girl at the Bang truck.
Yeah, at the what truck?
That's what it's called. It's called Bang. It's like you see all the like hot girls on Instagram or like advertising this Bang drink. Of course, there's a bit of a message in there.
Oh yeah, totally. And it's like a Monster Energy,
right?
Bull
type
thing. Yeah,
that's what it is.
I don't know if my system was up to taking that this morning. Anyway,
no, you're pretty ropey this morning, all right. but that's to be expected after a Saturday night in Las Vegas. I mean, I was very impressed when I called you this morning. You actually answered. I wasn't expecting that.
Hello.
But we were on time. We were on time.
And it's been a great day. Well, here it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, Patrick, and hope you've enjoyed listening to that. And there's lots of additional stuff. I have loads of photos. Hopefully all the videos come out all right, and I can try and get that edited up on my flight back. It'll give me something to do while sitting in airports and all the rest. And so it's worth going and seeking that out if you're listening. And as I say, thanks very much for spending a day with me and driving me about the place. It was absolutely first class.
My pleasure.
And thanks for listening. Get us on the socials at RMS Motoring, and do email us if you have any questions or queries. And I've only one more thing to say, and that there's no warranty. This was sold as seen.